So today we're going to talk about graphing piecewise functions. So these are functions represented by two or more equations with different domains. And these domains are typically given as an inequality statement. Now to graph each piece of a piecewise function, you want to use dashed lines to draw the boundaries where the function rule changes. You are then going to find the endpoint part of the function rule, and you're going to indicate whether those points are open or closed. Then you're going to use the slope or the function to plot another point. Double check your domain to make sure the line is going in the correct direction. So notice from your piecewise function, our function rule is going to change when x is 2. So the very first piece of my piecewise function is the negative x plus 5. And I'm going to be going towards the left because my domain is telling me that x is going to be less than or equal to 2. Now with that 2, I'm going to plug it into my function rule. So I got negative 2 plus 5, which is going to get me 3. And my endpoint is going to be 2, 3. Now it will be a closed circle because I did have that less than or equal to symbol in the domain. So I'm going to put my first point at 2, 3. Now I'm going to then find my slope. My slope is negative 1. And then from there, what I'm going to do is instead of going down 1 and to the right 1, I'm actually going to go up 1 and to the left 1 because the first piece of my piecewise function is pointing towards the x's that are to the left or less than 2. So that still follows my slope in that line, so I know that I drew this correctly. So now I'm going to look at the second piece of my piecewise function, and I'm going to be looking at x values that are towards the right of 2 because it's greater than 2. So let's take that 2 and plug it into my function rule, which is going to get me 0. So my endpoint is going to be at 2, 0. Now it will be an open circle based on the domain and the inequality that you see, which is greater than 2. And my slope is going to be negative 2. So because I'm going towards the right, I can actually continue that slope of down 2 and to the right 1, and then drawing my line. Okay, so here's another example. The dashed lines will be where x is 3. That's where my function rule will change. And let's look at the first piece. I'm going to be going towards the right because x is greater than or equal to 3. So taking that 3, plugging it into my function rule, I get a y value of 4. So my endpoint is at 3, 4, and I will have a closed circle. Now my slope is a positive 2, which means because I'm going towards the right, where my x's are greater than 3, I can go up 2 and to the right 1, and then draw my line. Now I want to look at the second piece of my piecewise function. So I'm going to be looking towards the x's that are to the left of that boundary line because x is less than 3. So let's take that 3, plug it into my function rule. I get a y value of negative 4. So that endpoint is going to be at 3, negative 4. I will have an open circle there. So now I'm going to look at my slope is 1/3. Now because I'm looking at x's that are to the left of 3, instead of going up and to the right, I'm actually going to continue and go down and to the left. Because as I continue that line, that slope is still going to be 1/3. Okay, in this example, you do see that there are 3 parts to this piecewise function, so let's look at those dashed lines to see where your function rule changes. So your function rule is going to change where your x is negative 2, and it's actually also going to change where your x is 3. So if I look at the very first piece, I'm going to be looking at the left. My x's are less than negative 2. So I'm going to take that negative 2 and plug it in. And your endpoint is going to be at -2, +2. Now you will have an open circle there because it's less than -2. Now my slope is -1, so I'm looking towards the left. So I'm going to continue those points from the left side, and I would make my line. So now I'm going to look at the middle part. Now you do have two different x values, and because you don't have an x variable in your function rule, you actually see that -3 is just a constant. So when x is -2, your y will be -3. When x is a +3, your y will be that -3. Now, with those endpoints, I will have a closed circle where I have that -2, -3. And then I will have an open circle where I have 3 and a -3. Now this is really a horizontal line because there is no slope, so it's just a straight line connecting those 2 points. So it looks almost like a line segment. Okay, now we're going to look at the right part. So x is greater than or equal to 3. So I'm going to take that 3, plug it into my function rule, and I get a y of 4. So my endpoint is going to be at 3, 4 with a closed circle. And my slope is a +1, so I'm going to the right. And I will have my points going up into the right one, and then making a line to continue. So let's see where my function rule changes. It changes at -4, and then it also changes at 3. I'm looking at the first piece, so the left part where x is less than -4. When my x is -4, I do have a y value of -6. So that endpoint will have a closed circle. And because there's no slope, it is that horizontal line. Because it's less than, I'm going towards the left and drawing that line. Now, if I look at the middle, I'm in between -4 and 3. So again, when I take those x values, the y coordinate will always be 1. I will have an open circle and a closed circle based on the domain that I have. I'm going to put those points there. And again, because there is no slope, it's a horizontal line. In this case, I will have a line segment because I'm in between 2 endpoints. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the very last piece that I have, which is x is greater than 3. So that 3 with an x is my y with a 5. So that's my endpoint. There will be an open circle. And again, because there is no slope, it is a horizontal line with an arrow at the end. Okay, some things for you to remember. If it's a less than or greater than, you will have an open circle. If it's a greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, you will have a closed circle. Then always double check that your line is going in the correct direction. Now, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for notifications on new videos. Thanks for watching!